Hello and welcome everyone, it is me, Lavo, also known as the Powder Duel, back for you with another video. And it's been a while, man. I think this is probably the longest time I have not uploaded to YouTube in ever. But the Dual Triangle event has concluded. For a sec, just fixing the camera, the mic arm here. But anyways, I did try because I wanted to be quirky and funny, as you know. That's kind of my thing. Try the fusion, try to play for the fusion team, but it just wasn't meant to be. The best games were the ones where I was activating branded fusion, sending Fawn of Albaz and a Morphtronic Scopen. But yeah, and those games I was just playing like branded with less garnets. Anyways, so I did swap over to the Xyz team, did not play a whole lot of matches, but a lot of the matches that I did play went fairly alright, for the purposes of an event. There definitely were better events in the past, but there, were also worse ones, in terms of how the list felt. Playing like a fairly, simple one here. So I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time on the list, because the list is nothing special at this point. I think I've played like a very Xyz-focused Morphtronic list before for an event. So we're just going to talk about the cards real quick and move into a couple replays, actually. I think I have like 3 or 4 saved. So we're probably going to take a look at those, see how those turned out. But yeah, playing 3 Southbound, kind of the main thing here are the level 1s. You want to be trying to make a couple rank 1s. See how those work. There's not a whole lot of like really great ones, but a lot of them are like fairly decent utility pieces, which you can work quite well with. And if the worst thing in the universe happens, you're summoning Assembled Nightingale, putting a download on their main 2 and summoning Zeus, which for any Xyz deck is still like a fairly good plan B to have. My hero in events, he shows up again. As you can see, the list doesn't play Gadget Gamer. I don't think there's much reason for it. Sure, you're maybe a bit short on starters, especially because Clockwork Knight is not a thing in this event. But I didn't feel like I was bricking to like an unplayable degree. I would not say that was the case, because technically, something like Converter is still a way that gets me to South on. Probably still allows me to make a rank 1, because I'm stacking a 1. So I didn't feel like this was terribly inconsistent, but maybe I also just did get lucky in those games that I played. So yeah, Vacuum showed up again, was great. Smartphone, also pretty great to get you additional cards to keep comboing, which is nice. Telephone, of course, a great way to get more level 1s on the board, so you can make more of those rank 1s. Remoteness is something that in theory should enable Levier, but I think I made Levier a grand total of once, which ties Levier with Cicada King, funnily enough, so that was great. And then I ended up playing 3 regulars. That is a ratio that I've, become quite fond of. I think playing 3 regulars, especially in Master Duel, where something like Kashtira Fenrir is limited, is pretty great, because both cards kind of fulfill a similar purpose. They're like big idiots you can just put out that help you, in situations where you're maybe going second. And they're like fairly good, just end board pieces in situations where you're maybe getting hit with like higher impact hand traps like Fuvalos, Maxi, or Nibiru, which is pretty great, because you can maybe pass sooner and still have interaction with not a lot of summons. Played a Monster Reborn, which was okay, a Foolish Burial, which was fine. It kind of filled up the list with like just generic extension pieces to get like guys on the field here. And yeah, something like Fenrir is limited. Machine Duplication, pretty good cards. Yeah, I don't think this one needs a whole lot of introduction. Just, getting 3 level 1s for the price of 1 is kind of crazy. 1 for 1, incredible cards. Yeah, I think I won like 2 or 3 games just because I opened this and wasn't shackled by the constraints of, you know, needing my normal summon to resolve. Played a Foolish Burial Goods for probably one of my favorites, like, more recent Morphtronic support cards. Probably my favorite at this point. Morphtronic Impact Return. It's not a great card, but Graveyard Effect's okay. And you technically something instead of a thrust, but I don't think you should be playing this. I just wanted to do something funny, and I wanted to play Impact Return because Impact Return is a cool card. So don't play this. Cut the Burial Goods and the Impact Return and find, like, either, you know, room for the Gadget Gamer portion, or, you know, look into other consistency options. Play, like, a Fenrir, maybe. I'm talking, you know, for, like, a future, you know, Xyz-focused event. 3 talents, great cards. I think this was crazy all event. 3 converter, just a nice way to, like, either get to Cellphone when you have not opened it, or get to, like, a specific name when you need it. That's why I kind of do like the 3 here. 2 thrust felt good. Just having, like, a bit more gas into boards is always nice. Especially when this gives you a way to something like 1 for 1, for example, which is always a potent card going second. Because you will have, like, a random guy left in hand that you, like, can't put on the board. And then, yeah, you know, thrusting for 1 for 1 is pretty darn nice. Still played Repair Unit. You want, like, a couple spell reveals for, like, Smartphone, and of course also the Sylvan Princess Sprite, which is pretty handy. Dropped it, again, something great to help going second. And then, yeah, you know, we played the Silly, we played the Archetype Twin Twisters. You know, 7-minute deck profile, by the way, already. For the extra, played a Lionheart, played an F-Zero package, which is fairly easily made. You make, like, Princess Sprite fairly easily, which, you know, potentially gets you another Spell Trap. Make, like, Ripple Bird, which has, like, niche interactions where you swap a monster's battle position and get, like, the other effect in. I think that might happen in one of the replays, but we will have to see. It's been a minute since I've played these games. Week's been busy. But yeah. Assembled Nightingale, just a great card to, you know, slap, like, Download Zeus on top, as mentioned earlier. F-Zero, something you can easily make turn 1. Ensemble Robin is, like, standalone already a great import piece for Morphtronics. In an event where you kind of have to make Xyz, it is just kind of there. Promenade Thrush was, like, a neat rank 1 for back row removal. Ripple Bird, as mentioned, is, like, the second rank 1 you make turn 1 to turn into, you know, the F-Zero. Levier comes up in theory, but that's just a theory. Isagata King also comes up in theory. At least it came up, you know, unlike Ashura King and Xyz Armor Torpedo. I did not make these 2 once, but I did make a lot of use of Download and Zeus. Playing the Xyz side has the advantage of, like, one of the greatest going second tools in the known universe, and that is Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. Which is pretty nice. I did play Typhon, but I don't think I made Typhon, like, once. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, with a short deck profile for my standards out of the way, let's get into some replays. Sorry if the energy is a bit low out of me today. Work's been rough, so filming this in the evening because I want to have it filmed, because tomorrow I'm probably going to be just working on college stuff. But yeah, my boring life aside opponent is on Millennium. Does the Millennium thing, which is, you know, Sanginjin for Heart of Blue Eyes for Ankh for the Exodia Incarnate. Doesn't negate the 1 for 1, which means, you know, Vacuuman gets to force out the entire board by itself after getting summoned off a 1 for 1. Regulus equips Regulus, which is pretty nice because that way the Heart of Blue Eyes doesn't immediately take it out. Get to activate Smartphone here, don't hit. But Converter for Cellphone, you know, is always a great thing to be opening. especially when you can just summon a smartphone back, guarantee a rank 1 after, you know, also getting to pick up like another Morphtronic card off the top. Getting drawed here is quite unfortunate. I do a bit of a... No, this is not the one where I do the silly. There was like one game where I was like, can I activate Sylvan Princess Sprite under Duel? You can't. But yeah, making the best card in the deck here, which is Zeus. I don't think I had to set that droplet, but, you know, you live and you learn. Opponent goes Lightning Storm. I let him have the regulars here, because I don't want him to turn like a Thrust Life or like a Talons Life too soon. So yeah, opponent goes Millennium Ankh, reveals all the Exodia pieces, shuffles back, summons Exodia Incarnate. I Zeus the board here, which, you know, kind of chilling. Still have 2 materials under the Zeus, so I think I have the game kind of on lock, which, you know, does kind of happen as I South on here, have the Zeus to attack, and I kind of just need to hit a name here, and there's Remoten, and, you know, there's nothing my opponent can draw here that saves them, unless they are on Battle Fader. So with that out of the way, let's get into the next replay. This was like an event where I didn't mind like getting sent second. Oh my goodness. A replay that I show where I open 1 for 1. Hopefully this doesn't become a pattern. But yeah, 1 for 1 here, discarding Vacuum, summon Cell Phone. Before we activate the Cell Phone, we put the regulars on the board. In an attempt to force the opponent to activate anything they might have prematurely. Summoning the Princess Sprite here, picking up a Thrust, which is fairly nice. Telephone brings back the Cell Phone. We just detached off of the Princess Sprite, which means we can already make F0. Hitting Telephone here is crazy. Get to Promenade Thrush, put back a back row here. Overlaying the 2 rank 1s here into Utopic Future and then into Utopic Draco Future. Telephone for Telephone here, you know, usually something fairly silly, but something that I, you know, do kind of just use as a mechanism to guarantee an assembled Nightingale here. As I Cell Phone, hit another Cell Phone, kind of hoping to, you know, hit another level 1, and there is like a very capable one in Smartphone, because it also picks me up another card. Hopefully, for the follow-up, which it nicely enough does, I do choose the Impact Return here, because I'm kind of like, hey, you know, maybe I can force out a bit of back row next turn, punch twice with the Assembled Nightingale, and get in for game here. This was like a fairly uneventful replay. But yeah, you kind of, you know, probably can see what I'm putting down here. You kind of do just make rank 1s until, you know, there is nothing left of your opponent. Please don't let this also be one where I open 1 for 1. I didn't open 1 for 1. Guys, trust. It is not just the rigging of the replays. But yeah, opponent ashes the Cell Phone here. I converted the Cell Phone away for Telephone, which I then use to reveal the top 6. Because, you know, this card has a second effect, which, you know, did feel kind of cool. Cell Phone here, hitting the other Cell Phone here after stacking the deck with Telephone's effect. And yeah, we get to do a little bit of a silly here. We get to overlay 2 Cell Phones into Ripplebird, which is Ripplebird will turn the Telephone to attack, which means we can use the second effect of that Telephone. This did feel pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, this was kind of cool. But yeah, Princess Sprite here, detaching the Telephone, so I have that engraved. Pick up a Talons in the process, which, you know, must be nice. Utopic Future into Draco Future is made. Telephone for Telephone here, which I'm using to recur the Cell Phone then. Because I'm probably not getting into like a, you know, profitable like Onsen Blue Robin beforehand. But yeah, opponent decides to pick up their cards here after this. Since they did ash me earlier, this Talons is even live, so I get to like potentially even rip a card out of their hand. And then end on like, you know, yeah, like 3 or 4 special bounces. Probably also just like an assembled Nightingale that I'm just gonna let sit there, because not a whole lot of other pieces of interaction I can make. I guess I do have a remote in the graveyard, which means there is like a chance that I'm making Cicada King here. So I'm ending on like 2 monster negates and like 3 special bounces with the Awesome Blue Robin. So yeah, good luck beating that. And here we go into the final replay, of course, opening 1-for-1. Guys, I swear this is not just replays where I did open 1-for-1. Anyways, opponent is on Pacifist, and, you know, has opened fairly well. Go 1-for-1 here, discard the telephone, summon Southfawn, which, you know, it's nice of him to imperm this, so I get to machine dupe the Southfawn here. Sadly, do not get a third, but, you know, having 2 is already pretty nice, especially if we get to connect a smartphone off the top here. Which is a Dominus Purge, which, you know, unfortunate, I guess. But yeah, Princess Bride here gets hit with a Scream, but luckily for me, the last the last 2 cards in my hand are Reaper Unit and a Telephone. And with a Telephone in the graveyard, we all know that things are about to get very silly. But yeah, Southern here doesn't hit anything. I turn these 3 into an Assembled Nightingale, forgetting that Assembled Nightingale can attack directly for a second here. Not playing a lot of Lyrilusks, you know, do forgive me. Do use one of the Zeus activations here to out the Phantasm Spiral Dragon, just so that they don't have a vanilla on the board on the follow-up, which prompts them to scoop here. Which, yeah, sometimes, you know, your hand is that good that your opponent clicks yes on every piece of every push you try and make, but you can kind of still force your way through, which, you know, did feel kind of good and kind of sums up this event. You know, usually it was like, you know, fairly hefty engine hands where I kind of just, you know, clicked extender, 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 until my opponent was like, okay, yeah, you know, go make a 5 material Zeus, I guess. But yeah, with all that out of the way, I'm sorry for the huge delay on this, but the last couple of weeks have just been very busy, and as of now, there is no sign of stopping. And, you know, on the side, I've also just been kind of enjoying a lot of other games. I'm playing a bit of Minecraft recently again, so that is very nice. I do think that is a very beautiful game. But yeah, even at the ripe old age of 26. But yeah, with all that out of the way, I will be thanking you, of course, very much for watching, just as always. It does mean a lot because, you know, not the most consistent schedule lately. And also, you know, just a silly guy on the internet talking about Morphtronics. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.